Hello.
Hey, good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh my lord, I'm exhausted.
You are. Well, we are live, so I'm just letting you know before you say anything that you shouldn't say. How's
So,
DC?
this is great. I am in Baltimore this morning. I'll be back in DC later today, and then back in Baltimore. The thing about DC is everything's boarded up. All of the businesses are boarded up. Pretty much my office, which is right across the street from the White House, they're like, yeah, goodbye. You have to go. So it's pretty much everything is boarded up in downtown DC because the
Insane.
expectation, yeah, is that there are going to be a number of protests. There's massive street closures that are going to begin today. It's going to be impossible to get around DC.
Insane. I can't believe it. And what is your prediction? I'm going to Mar-a-Lago tonight. So you're going to be doing the White House and I'm going to be doing Mar-a-Lago. What's your prediction? Is he going to stay in DC or is he coming here?
No, he's staying in DC. It's not as much as I would like for him to
Ah,
come there. I think
okay.
he's
All
staying.
right.
I think he's staying put. There'll probably be about 400 guests at the White House tonight, and I think he's staying put. But
Amazing. Well, I mean, listen, God bless. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm going to Mar-a-Lago, whether he's there or not. I'm just
yes,
excited to be going there on election night. This is historical. It's life changing. Every time I go in there, I have to push myself that I'm actually there.
right.
And to be there on election night is beyond.
Well, yeah, and the interesting thing is that there was at some point, talk of hosting the celebration party tonight at the Trump Hotel, but of course it's in D.C. And what would have happened? Well, the mayor of D.C., Muriel Bowser, would have sent her squads in to shut the place down because
Yeah.
only 50 people are allowed. And the problem, of course, with that is then she would pull the liquor license from the Trump Hotel, which would
Yeah.
effectively put it out of business.
It's crazy. I had a conversation with Daniel, who runs the bar in there, when I was in DC a couple
Yeah,
weeks ago. And, he was running around, making sure that everybody had their masks on in between sips. I mean, to the point of ridiculousness. And he goes, I'm so sorry to do this, but the mayor comes in here and has people in here taking pictures to, shut us down, that they're looking to shut it down. And, we have to take every precaution and make sure that everybody follows the rules because we have this draconian mayor.
yeah,
And, it was just mind boggling to me that, again, it's just such a witch hunt against the president. And, it's not about pushing, policies that are good for America or anything else.
right.
It's about Donald Trump and hating Donald Trump and how outrageous it is. But I know that we're winning. And I just want to give my quick disclaimer, since we are on live and we're going to be recording the show and putting it up later, that any opinions expressed on this show by myself, Chris, or any of our guests are not necessarily the opinions of our broadcasters or sponsors.
Well, of course, we have to do that.
We do. And welcome to Red America Radio. And this is our live election day coverage. So we're glad that you're with us.
Yeah, so so what are your thoughts about today? I've heard all this talk about early voting, the pipe dream of Texas, the Texas flip, blah blah blah. What are your thoughts about today?
There's no Texas split. That's a complete horseshit situation.
Uh,
There's no Texas flip. There will never be a Texas flip. I also believe that we are going to have Pennsylvania. I do believe that Philadelphia is the exception to the rule. I
yeah,
think overwhelmingly the state's going to turn red. My prediction is that at the end the percentages are going to be 42% for Biden, and Donald Trump is going to win this, by a landslide. I'm going to call
mhm,
it that. But they are going to attempt to steal the election through the mail-in ballot process. And what they're going to do today is they're going to cause all sorts of confusion, saying that votes aren't counted and that there's no the way that we're going to know the results. And he's going to call it and he's going to say, I won. And then they're going to attack him for saying that he won when the results aren't in. And that's going to go on for the next 60 days and waste a lot of time for the American people and create a false narrative and, allow the mainstream media to perpetuate the bullshit that they've been doing for the last 4.5 years.
Well, yeah, and that I think that's accurate. I mean, they've already started. The governor of Michigan said, "Oh, well, it's going to take us a while to count the votes in Michigan, and because that's the process that we use." Pennsylvania is a bit suspect, and then they're also talking about a Georgia flip. Not only are they talking about a Georgia flip, they're also talking about the fact that since there are two Senate races up, that in fact both seats are going to go to Democrats. But the fundamental problem with that is no one in any of those seats are going to get 50%. And under Georgia law, what that means is there'll be a runoff. And so the Georgia Senate seat won't be decided until January 10th, but it's part of the false narrative.
Yeah, and it's entirely a false narrative. And Georgia is not going to be blue. Georgia will remain red. And I just don't understand how they can continue to put out the BS into the media and continue to get away with it. And we have very exciting news. Is I don't know if you read about this, but Zach Voorhees, who is the whistleblower for Google,
Yes.
and Ryan Hartwing, who was the whistleblower for Facebook, they actually filed a lawsuit yesterday, or maybe it was the day before yesterday, in the court in California, in the Ninth District. And it's an Obama appointed judge, but they haven't thrown the case out, so they are going to hear the case. And it looks like we're going to start to take some action against big tech and against the corruption. So I think it's a really great move ahead in the process. And Dr. Cordy Williams is down here from 1776 Forever Free, visiting in Florida, coming to Mar-a-Lago tonight. And he actually interviewed Zach yesterday, and it was a really great interview. So I recommend that everybody watch it, because it really sheds a lot of light on just how bad this big tech scandal is. And it's equivalent to the mainstream media. There's no difference between the way that big tech is handling things and the way the mainstream media has been handling things. It's just a different medium, but it's all about corruption. It's all about feeding this false narrative, feeding the Democratic Party that doesn't have a shot in hell to win this election. And Donald Trump is going to win by a landslide.
Yeah, and there's been I think part of what has been ignored is the fact that I think that there are two blue states that the president will actually flip, and I think those are Minnesota and Nevada. And I think nobody's really paid attention to that a lot in the media. If we look, for example, at Nevada, keep in mind that since they decided to shut Nevada down, what the Dems didn't realize in doing that is that a number of the unions, the folks moved out because they lost their jobs. And so it was the unions who would organize, do door knocking, all of that stuff for Dems in Nevada, particularly in Las Vegas. And so they have lost that slice of the pie. And I think Minnesota, and for someone who's lived and worked in Minnesota, I think Minnesota has just had enough. Even though the ridiculous Keith Ellison is the Attorney General, I still think Minnesota is a potential for a blue state flip.
Yeah, and you probably saw too, Biden said that, this union had endorsed him, and it was
Yeah.
completely untrue. And I think that yesterday what the president did with fracking in Pennsylvania is going to make a difference with those unions and those workers, and that may really give him a push in Pennsylvania. So I think that, there's a really, again, like just I keep saying false narrative, but I don't know what else to say, because it really truly is. And even with the unions, I think that there's a real misconception and false narrative there, because I think a lot of those people are going to vote for Donald Trump.
Yeah, because the members of the unions realize that in fact it is the president's policies that are most helpful to them in terms of being able to survive, thrive, and feed their families. Dems somehow believe that they have them just completely locked down, and that simply isn't true. So I think you have the issue with the unions as well. And so as we're looking through this whole election cycle, some very, I think, interesting things, at one point, there was all this, hoopla about Lindsey Graham losing the seat in South Carolina. Lindsey's not going to lose that seat,
No.
because what ended up happening was that the National Party and others stepped in because his opponent, Jamie, got so much, like, I don't know, $570 million, most of it, of course, coming from out of state groups, etc. But South Carolina is not going to go for such a radical um, Democrat to replace Lindsey Graham. Simply not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. And, going back to Texas for a second, because we mentioned Texas, I don't know if you saw the video I posted on my Instagram story, and it's been all over. So it's not just the video I posted,
Yeah.
but of the Biden bus being escorted
Yes.
out of Texas by the Trump parade. And now, I don't know if you've heard, but the FBI is investigating
Yeah.
because they're saying that there were threats. And I just think, again, like, how far are we going to take this? Like, how much BS is there? Like, there were no threats. They were following the bus out of town. Like, that's a crime now. But it's just, that's how much control the deep state thinks they have. And thank God our president has started to rip the cover off of that. And I think it's only going to get better. And I think, Hunter Biden's laptop isn't going to stay in the basement for very long. There's going to be a lot coming out on that. And, there's been some decent coverage. I'm actually working on an expose about that. And I've uncovered some really juicy details that haven't been reported anywhere else. And I have some emails in my possession as well that were forwarded to me. And there's very few outlets. There's the Daily Mail actually has done a decent job of covering it. And I'm using some of their coverage and some information that they've reported on. But there's a lot that's happened that hasn't been circulated anywhere. But God bless the Daily Mail. They're doing a decent job in uncovering what's actually going on. Imagine that we have to use a UK newspaper to get American news out to the American people. That's just a sign of the times of what's happening with, this corruption.
Well, it is. And in fact, yesterday, I actually did quite a bit on Australian TV to debunk, some of these notions, because they were saying, oh, well, the president's in trouble. He's going to lose. Blah, blah, blah. I said, guys, wait a minute. We've seen this movie before. And so as it relates to the polls, I heard Frank Lutz say, oh, if the polls are wrong again this time, people like me and people in my profession need to find a lot of work. And to that I replied, yeah, Frank, the circus is hiring. I'm not sure they'll hire you, but in any event, they're hiring. So when it comes to the polls, I don't put a whole lot of stock in the polls. I think today for me, as I'll be in the streets, just kind of looking at, who's voting, what the numbers are, those kinds of things. Because I think, folks have to understand that as Republicans, in large part, we go out and vote on the day of the election. Now, as it relates to Florida, a lot of discussion about Florida. But here's the thing: Florida, they lost. The Democrats lost Florida for the same reason they're going to lose it again this time. Broward and Dade underperforming. They're underperforming. I don't care what the registration numbers are if they're not coming out to vote. And I heard some of the most ridiculous commentary about Broward, in which they're saying, oh, well, a lot of Black people have not come out to vote because they're scared of voting before Election Day. What?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. So,
excuse me.
Yeah, it's those kinds of things that I think, and again, this was the same thing they said last time around, and they lost.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that the misreporting really doesn't do them any justice. I'm surprised that anybody's putting any stake in these polls at now, after seeing what happened in 2016. But they still have a connection. The mainstream media, they're still out there. But yeah, there's no truth in this. And I've been doing the same thing you've been doing. I'm watching what's happening. I'm looking at the rallies. I'm looking at who's going to the polling locations. I'm looking at who's there, regular people, talking to people in the grocery store, talking to people that I meet every day. meeting people on the street that point out the fact that I have a Trump mask on and give me a thumbs up. And what I'm seeing is an overwhelming response for the president, even more than in 2016. So, I'm gonna use that as my polls. I'm not gonna listen to any of the stuff that's out there on the mainstream media or anywhere else for that matter. I'm gonna use my eyes and my ears to make an educated decision and be a free thinker and logically look at the people that I'm meeting in my little blue county here in
Yes.
Palm Beach County and deduct that Florida is going to win this. And I have to tell you, I'm actually very proud of the Palm Beach County School Board today. And I want to just cover Florida news for a quick second.
Sure.
You remember the Holocaust denying principal?
Yes, I do.
Yes. So yes, and I was on fire. I was on fire to get him fired when this first broke, and the just, and I'm going to call it insensitivity rather than calling him anti-Semitic. But his email basically said that he couldn't confirm or deny that the Holocaust was real.
Hmm.
And whether that was just a totally insensitive comment and the guy's just a freaking dumbass or something more, I don't know. But the simple fact is, the principal of a Boca Raton High School, Palm Beach County High School in Florida, the man should know that Holocaust education is mandated by
Yes.
the state of Florida. You don't belong as a principal teaching children in this education system if you don't know what the required curriculum is. You
Right.
don't deserve to be in that seat. It's that simple. Take the rest of it out of it. The man can't do his job if he doesn't know what mandated education is, especially on a subject like this in Boca Raton that's so heavily Jewish.
Yes.
So the crazy part about this story is, as logical as it would seem that he would be fired immediately, of course, he then went to court and said that he was discriminated against and basically wanted to fight back and say that he was discriminated, this and that. Meanwhile, he got all of his special pay, he got all of his vacation benefits, and he was
Ah,
making over six figures. Okay, it's unbelievable. It's mind boggling. And then the judge says, "Yeah, I think he was unfairly fired," and
what?
they were moving to reinstate him. Yeah, no, true story. So I was livid, and so many parents were livid, and so many great community members were livid that how could this judge rule like this? And the Palm Beach County School Board stood up and they said, we're not going to take the judge's ruling. We're going to make our own ruling, and we're going to meet on this, and we're going to vote on it. We're going to make a decision whether he's fired or not. He got all his special pay, he got his vacation benefits. That makes me livid. But, at least now they actually voted unanimously yesterday, 7-0, that he should be fired. So he is now being fired and let go from the Palm Beach County school system. He will no longer work for the Palm Beach County school system. He will no longer be a principal. But I smell another lawsuit coming. And unfortunately, in this litigious environment that I'm all too familiar with
Yes, you
down
should
here in
know.
Florida, so I totally know this corrupt system of litigious attorneys that are leeches that don't deserve to have licenses through the Florida bar, that should be disbarred. Some creep, some slimy creep, like the slimy creeps that came after me, will go ahead and take that lawsuit and go ahead and fight on his behalf that he was unfairly fired. And probably it'll result in $1 million judgment. And this guy will go on and he'll benefit from being an anti-Semitic piece of shit.
Yeah, that's pretty much, that's pretty much what's going to happen. But at least the school board stood up, so there's some hope there.
As pissed off as I am, I'm going to focus on the positive, and I'm going to say, you know what? A big round of applause for the Palm Beach County School Board for doing the right thing and for standing up and really taking and listening to what the parents wanted and what was right for the students. And in this case, they really did that. And it made me feel very differently because I was very upset with the whole situation. So, maybe there's more logic than sometimes we think there is. And maybe we should, be optimistic. So I'm going to be optimistic, and I'm going to say thank you to the Palm Beach County School Board here on this broadcast.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
They never would have expected that.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Definitely not. But I am forgiving when people stand up and do the right thing. But we have just a real problem down here in Florida with court corruption and with litigious attorneys that sue for profit and are in things for the wrong reasons. And we got to stand up and do something about it. We need federal legislation to end the corruption in the guardianship system and the probate court system. And that's something I'm going to be working on after we get past the election and in the second term. I plan to spend a lot of time working with, the Center for Estate Administration Reform, SEER, and, working on getting some federal legislation to make changes for all of our states, because the states are not doing a good job of managing this at this point.
No, no, absolutely not. So as we're moving into to tonight, pins and needles.
Yes.
We look at particularly, the coverage. I mean, the networks have already started with, oh, it is impossible for the president to win. They blah blah blah. But they've already started with that. Early this morning, I've been doing global hits starting very very early this morning,
Yeah.
and the networks have already started with that. But I think what they will soon discover is that the people of America, that's the only poll that matters when they go into the booth and vote for the president of the United States. That's really the only poll that matters. So they can spend all the time, all the effort, all the spin they want. It is not going to turn out the way the mainstream media believes that, in fact, it's going to turn out. Didn't turn out that way last time, not going to turn out that way this time.
100%. And the only thing that's going to be a problem is this whole ballot recount, ballot recount. We
Yes.
don't have the results. It's going to be, and what's going to infuriate, I think, most of America is the fact that that's all you're going to hear for the next 60 days as they spin and spin and spin and try to find a way to twist it in order to be able to keep their narrative going. And I think our president in the second term is going to make some major changes involving the FCC
Yeah.
and the regulations on mainstream media and on big tech. And I'm watching that unfold, and have gotten some insight to what he's planning to do. And there's going to be some major changes coming down in the second term as far as that's concerned. And it's going to be great for America because it really has become propaganda, and it's not so different than when I was in China.
Yeah.
And you turn on Chinese television and they actually have fake CNN in China, which is hard to imagine that, but they have these American looking commentators that live in China. And, every morning it's, oh, China's so wonderful and China this and China that. And, oh, we love communism and everything's fantastic. And it's the best place to live in the whole world. And, meanwhile, you talk to the people and behind closed doors when you can get them to speak freely, and they know it's propaganda. They know what they're being fed. They put up with it. They feed their families. They do what they have to do because they're not going anywhere. So, but the truth is that they don't buy into it. And I think it's about time that maybe we don't buy into it either. Maybe we're smarter than that. And I do believe that most Americans are logical thinkers. That is a small portion of the population that buys the bullshit. So hopefully we're going to take a better look at this, and we're going to realize that it's propaganda. The best thing that Americans can do is stop putting their eyeballs on the TV. Turn it off. Watch alternative news.
Yeah, and I think alternative news is really what's going to make a difference as we move forward here, because if we're relying on the mainstream media, as you said, it's yellow journalism, it's propaganda. And all we get from them is their opinions. And frankly, I don't give a shit about their opinions. Because from my perspective, most of them are not intelligent enough to even form an opinion. And so you listen to their dribble, you look at CNN and the bromance, the kind of homoerotic relationship between Don Lemon and Chris Cuomo. It's disgusting. I mean, you sit there and you listen to that, and it's like, people, have you no decency? And the answer is no.
Yeah, I actually had a really interesting conversation with a good friend who knows both of them personally from New York. And she's actually on our side of the aisle. And
Uh-huh.
the conversation consisted of her telling us that, socially, she knew them back in New York before things got so crazy, that they're both very nice people, that Don Lemon and his husband are like, an amazing couple. And she's like, I really liked both of them. I had a great relationship with both of them. What you see on television isn't who they are. They are literally puppets. It's not who they are, and that they do it because they're both making, in excess of $10 million a year.
Yeah.
And that's without endorsements and without the extra stuff. And that they basically sold their souls to the devil, and that they don't even believe what's coming out of their mouths. And hearing this from her and knowing, who she is, and I won't name names, but it really was enlightening to me because it's somebody that I trust, who I know isn't bullshitting me. And she's telling me they're not the people that they appear to be. And I find that very easy to believe, because it's
Yeah,
hard to believe that they could feel that way. So they're basically, feeding the propaganda machine. That's what they're doing.
yeah. Well,
It's
because
communism.
yeah, pretty
It's
much.
communism.
It's similar to the folks that you just talked about, the fake CNN folks in China, same model. And it seems to me that Baghdad Bob, if anybody remembers that guy, really is the news media. Really, you look up and there are bombs flying in the air, and he says, "Oh, not to worry, no bombs are flying," and you're like, "Dude, I just saw some." Um, so it's the same kind of thing that I think that has infected the American media.
Yeah, yeah, it's infection. It's an election infection. It's
Yes,
the election infection of COVID and of the fake news. And it's we got to get past this. We got to take the masks off. We got to unmask.
yes.
We had a lady try to run us over yesterday.
Oh my God.
True story. True story. Again, exciting things are happening when Dr. Cordy's in town. So we went to lunch yesterday with a big group of people, and we were walking back. Dr. Cordy, my husband, a bunch of other great patriotic Republicans. And we're walking across the street downtown in West Palm, and an old lady in like a Ford Taurus with a trailer hitch on the back. Yes, there was a trail. Like she had an actual. It wasn't a trailer hitch. She had an actual trailer on the back, which
Oh God.
didn't make any sense. It was scary. She was probably about 80 years old. She starts screaming at us that we need to put our masks on. Starts screaming that she went to school with Dr. Fauci. I mean, it was just the most bizarre incident ever. And then tries to run us over with her car, almost comes up over the curb, still screaming at us. And meanwhile, her mask is on, and her mask is filthy. I mean, filthy dirty. And it was almost, I kind of felt bad, because I feel like something was like
Yeah.
maybe a little mentally wrong, like maybe a little dementia, like something was going on. So I didn't want to be too hard on her, and I didn't film it. But at that point, Dr. Cordy had picked up his phone, basically because he was concerned for our safety, because the
Safety.
lady just tried to run us over. Like, you got to record what's going on. And he recorded a good portion of the end of the incident. And you can just see how absolutely delusional she is. And I feel like they're taking advantage of weak people in this country.
Yeah.
Here's this woman who probably has some sort of touch of dementia, and she's being fed the propaganda and
Right.
believing all of it, and now is attacking innocent people trying to cross the street
Yeah.
outdoors because they're not wearing masks in a group together. We weren't exposing her to anything.
Right.
There were like, 6 of us walking together. It was our group without masks on. We
Right.
didn't approach her. We didn't stop her. She's in a car. She's in
Right.
a vehicle. And she feels it's necessary to attack us and almost try to run us over. So, I think it's criminal what the fake news is doing. I think it's absolutely criminal. You're
Yeah.
taking this poor woman that obviously isn't mentally right. You're feeding her propaganda, and now she's going to go out and attack somebody or run somebody over with a car because she's so infuriated about something that's complete and total horseshit.
Yeah. And
Mind boggling.
that's where we find ourselves, my friend. So
Ah,
as we wrap up here and get into today, we'll be posting, folks, everywhere about election updates, everything that we see coming up. Red America Radio, your global presence.
yes. And we got to be global, because, heck knows we got to read the news in the other countries in order to get it accurate these days. So,
There you go.
thank God we're global. But, I think the global portion shows the support overwhelmingly for the president, too. All of the
Yes.
international viewers that do reach out to us and that watch the show, I want to say thank you to them as well, because they've really enlightened me, this season of our show, and showed me that, people really do believe in America. We still are the land of the free and the land of opportunity. And we can't forget that. So God bless America, and God bless Election Day. And I'll be looking forward. We'll be talking all day. So let's keep in touch, and we'll keep the information coming. And if anybody needs anything, just reach out. We're here for you, and stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Okay. Talk to you soon, folks.
Bye. See you
Bye-bye.
later.
See you later.